Hello, welcome to my channel. I'm Janet Yong, and in my channel I share about Feng Shui, Bazi, entrepreneurship as well as personal growth, especially from the areas of communication, success and motivation. In today's episode, we are going to dwell in the topic of healing. Now you may ask, from a personal growth perspective, why am I talking about healing? As I covered in the last few episodes about moving towards period 9 and how each of us or the whole world is shifting from the focus of building power, authority, focus on purely just money and wealth towards purpose, happiness. So usually through this, we may have to go through quite a huge change in our thinking and thought patterns, and a lot of it you can actually have an insight to, like I mentioned previously, from your Bazi chart. For instance, when you go through a clash or your chart shows a punishment or a self-persecuting clash, or just simply in terms of your natal Bazi chart not having enough of the fire element, causing you to think of things more from the perspective of half empty rather than half full, or having too much fire. I've seen actually quite a lot of my clients where it shows just a potential in their chart where there can be issues in terms of health or relationship within a 3 to 5 year period. But because they are not able to handle it well and heal themselves well, they get into a downward spiral, health becomes an issue. I've also seen clients where their chart natally has potential of many problems that can have health issues. However, these clients, to my surprise, actually end up doing very well in life. Now, why is the case? You can have the two same people born on the same day, same month, same year, and same time. But one most crucial thing is the persons who usually do well usually have the right kind of mindset. And when they attune to the right kind of mindset, they are able to heal properly, even though they go through bumps and humps or obstacles or challenges in life. And that's why I chose to focus on the topic of healing, and I've actually chose to interview Dr. Peter Mack, who has been in the medical practice, specifically in the general surgery specialty, for the last few decades, to understand from his point of view as a medical practitioner, what does it mean by healing? So in this next two episodes, where the topic is about all healing is self-healing, I interviewed him about what it means by all healing is self-healing, as well as the 4 dimensions of healing. And I would like to welcome you to join me in this interview session, and I hope that you will enjoy his sharing as well. See you in the next segment where I do the interview. Hi, Dr. Mack. Thank you once again for agreeing for this interview.
Thank you for the invitation.
No problem. Dr. Mack, as a general surgeon in practice, it was very enlightening for me to hear your talk, which I will leave in terms of video description in the link below. And I wanted to understand from your perspective, why do you say that all healing is self-healing?
It is actually quite simple in the sense that when a person heals, he or she will only heal when she is aware of what is happening to herself, whether she's able to express her own emotions, her own problems to other people, whether she's willing to change the way she relates to herself and to her immediate society environment, and willing to change that situation. So if a person is not willing to change, then the healing will not take place. This is why I say all healing is self-healing. The therapist will only act as a facilitator.
When you spoke about healing, you actually also spoke about the 4 dimensions of healing itself. What are these 4 dimensions, and which part of your surgical practice, right, did it come across to you that you suddenly feel that there should be these 4 dimensions of healing?
Okay, number one, we must understand what healing is. If you go back to the etymology of the term, the word healing comes from an old English word called helen, which means being whole. So healing is about being wholesome, to be a whole person. Now, to be a whole person, you must be balanced in all your various dimensions of your life, which I briefly classify into four: the physical, the mental, the emotional, and the spiritual. So if a person balances all these four dimensions and patch up any deficiencies in any of them, then he becomes wholesome and then healing takes place. Now, this is the general concept of healing nowadays. Now, your question or how it relates to my surgical practice, I would say that medical practice today in conventional medicine, or rather medicine today, don't have proper definition of the word healing. In medical practice, the physician, the doctor, is concerned with prevention of disease, eliminating the disease, or rather to get rid of the disease, which otherwise is known as curing. So doctors nowadays, they are curers of diseases and, strictly speaking, and not healers. Medical practice today does not have a clear idea of what healing is.
Quite interesting to me because I think when I knew you when I was in Johnson & Johnson, right, you were a general surgeon.
Right.
How did you go into the field of healing?
It's a long story. Now, when I was going through my training in surgery, I noticed a very unique phenomenon which none of my seniors have any answers to. There are some patients who have got persistent symptoms which we as doctors cannot find an answer to. And I've even encountered patients with severe abdominal pain to the point where he needs surgery. And when we did surgery on the abdomen of the patient, we actually find everything to be normal. And we cannot explain it. After closing up the abdomen, patient gets well. So these are phenomena that we cannot explain. That's one. There was another incident that I recall. A patient got a cancer of the esophagus. My big boss did an operation on the patient, removed the cancer, and everything went well, perfect and all that. But after the surgery, the patient just refuses to open his eyes, refuses to eat, refuses to drink, refuses to do anything, and then he just died within 1 week, even though the surgery was perfect procedure. Now, at the back of my mind, I sensed something is missing in our conventional medical or surgical practice, which I've got no answer to. So all the years, I've always been on the search for something which lies beyond what I'm taught in the medical school. All right, that's how I got into healing. Along the way, when I got into training in hypnosis, I went into the specialty of regression hypnosis, whereby I recall the patient's past events which has caused hurt to the patient and all that. Then I realized that that technique is all about the so-called healing process, about hurt of the past, healing trauma of the past. So I realized that healing has got a lot to do with the mental dimension as well as the emotional dimension. So I begin to get some answers in the sense that healing is not just about treating the physical body. That's about curing. But we must look into the mental aspects of the patient, the emotional aspects, and of course, to a certain extent, the spiritual aspects. And we must balance all these four dimensions before the patient can heal.
Interesting. So I understand the bit about the emotional healing because the person's, I think, feelings must be balanced. The mental part in terms of the attitude about moving. How does spiritual healing come into play? Because that's one of the dimensions you mentioned as well.
Okay. To answer your question, I think we must be clear about what spirituality is. Now, a lot of people equate it to religion, but that's wrong. All right. Spirituality is about searching for the truth. It's not the same as religion. Religion, you actually bow to an authority who dictates what you should believe in and what you should not believe in. In other words, spirituality is not a belief system. It is a path, it's a journey to look for what you see as the truth. And in the process, you look for meaning, you establish your life goals, and you find out what your life purpose is. All right, you examine your own personal values and be a better person. And when you do all these things, that's actually moving yourself towards a healing process. You become a better person, you connect with yourself better, you connect with the universe better, and that is necessary for the healing process.